Hello, how is everybody doing? Alrighty, so here we are, right? Knocking on fall, it's coming around the corner, we all know what that means. Change in the tech world. This time around, it's going to be Windows 11. So we all know installing a new version of Windows can be equally parts of terrifying and exciting. So we're going to talk about the release date of Windows 11, which is coming up quickly. And we'll talk about how you can check to see whether or not your system is even going to be able to run Windows 11, what to expect from it, all that kind of good stuff, because it's better to be prepared, even if you decide to hold off, or if Windows decides for you to hold off. Regardless, now is the time you want to start preparing. You want to start making those decisions so that when that moment comes, you already have your game plan in place. So let's talk some tech, shall we? Okay, now I get that not everybody is as excited about new tech as I am, but even a Windows update, I'm pretty much on the same page with everybody else on this one because it can go either way, right? It can be great or it can be not so great. Murphy agrees. So we're going to talk about what's coming down the pike here, what to expect, how to check to see whether or not it's even going to be an option for you on your existing equipment, and some of the things to look forward to or not, promises that have been made that we probably won't see right away, that kind of thing, shall we? Alrighty. Let me switch this over so that we can start the party. And we're going to start off with what I assume everybody wants to know right away, which is when. So the release date, as of now, so I'm recording this in September of 2021. As of right now, the release date is scheduled for October 5th, 2021. Now, the important thing to remember here is not everybody's going to get it on that day. It's not like they're going to release the hounds and everybody's going to get it all at once. It will be a rollout kind of thing, and during that rollout, things will happen that will require them to go back and retool a little bit and push out updates, and that cycle will begin. I don't know why he's barking his full head off. Hang on. I don't know if that'll help, but we'll see. So don't think that, hey, October 5th, ooh, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have new Windows. No, that's probably not going to happen. You will start to see it if you are in the market for a brand new computer. You will probably start to see those rolling out sometime in October, November, for the holiday season. But there will still be a lot of systems that are rolling out the door with Windows 10, and that's not a bad thing, right? It's okay. So don't panic. Don't get overexcited about it. Just know that this is why you're going to start to hear a lot of people talking about it, because it's moving out of all of the testing, right? And all of the inner circle people who've been playing with it, who are all doing all the reporting about it. It's now going to become more of a real thing for us. So before you can install it, should that, when that opportunity presents itself, which eventually it will, you have to already have Windows 10 installed. Now, I know not everybody has that, and that will be a problem for you because you're going to need this. However, in the description, you can go and there's a link in there that will help you get your Windows 10 install for free in most cases. There's a few outliers where you're going to have to cough up a little money for it, but in many, many cases, you can still get Windows 10 for free as an upgrade, and then once you've got that in place, then you'll be ready for the Windows 11 release when that comes out, because it will be free for that. So make sure you've got that installed because you're going to want to see. The other big question is always, will my existing equipment be able to run the new operating system? And the answer is always maybe. You can go, and again, the links are in the description, but you can go and you can read up to see what the specs are. There's also a tool that Microsoft is going to release. I meant to check before we came on. It was available for a brief moment in time. Let me just check real quick and see if it's live today. It was up, and then I'm guessing they ran into a problem, and so they decided to bring it down again. Okay, no, it still says coming soon, so it will be coming soon. It will probably be there again before the October 5th date. But in the meantime, you can just go and you can read the specs, just click on the link in the description to find out what it is. Basically, if you have a fairly new system and Windows 10 is running well on it, the odds are pretty good you'll be able to run Windows 11 on it. But you'll be able to run this check to make sure before you go do it. So again, nothing to get too excited about the day one, because we're most likely, those of us who've had computers that are a couple of years old, we're not going to see it right away. What they tend to do with these things is the people who have super brand new computers, they'll get it first, and then they'll start rolling it out to the rest of us. And what'll happen is you won't have to like go and get it anyplace. It'll be, how you get those Windows update notifications. It'll be one of those that'll tell you, whether or not when you're available for it, and then you can choose to do it then or postpone it, all the usual stuff. Just know that when you say postpone, that usually puts you way back in the queue, so it will probably be a while again before you do that. So the first thing is you need to make sure you have Windows 10 on your machine, because only the Windows 10 systems will get the free upgrade to Windows 11. But then that's just one level of the game. And the next level of the game is, can your system handle it? And that you'll be able to check and see that. So that will be okay. And according to the reports I've read, when you use the Microsoft tool to do the checking, if it doesn't, or if it's sort of borderline, it will tell you why. Now, with a laptop, that's just information. But on a desktop system, that could mean that you could maybe make a minor upgrade to your system to make it compatible. So maybe, you need better memory, or maybe you need an updated graphics card. So at least it will give us some information to let us know whether or not it's even an option. And then, of course, if you don't want to upgrade your system, you don't have to, because it will keep running. So did I get to that part already? Okay, yeah, so like I was saying, so it won't roll out to everybody right away, so you don't have to worry. And you know what? This is the kind of thing where it's okay. Like, I a lot of the times, like, I want to be in the early crowd, but when it comes to my core systems, I'm really not super eager to be the first people using it. I'm okay with other people, who have enough duplicate systems that if a system goes down, it's not catastrophic for them. Not that this will be catastrophic, but I can't risk it on the machines that I make my living off of. And right now I don't have just a test system for giggle's sake. So it's okay. Like, don't feel like you're missing out on anything if you don't get it right away. Give it time. Like I said, that they'll roll it out. The good and the bad thing about Windows is that it is an open system, right? It's not a closed environment like the fruit people. But for every good, there is a bad, right? And so it makes it harder to make sure that what they put out is going to work seamlessly across everything, because there's an almost infinite number of combinations out here in the world, right? Even if you buy an off-the-shelf system, that doesn't mean that you haven't opened it up and switched out something, which no longer makes it off the shelf, which adds levels of complexity. So they're going to release it. They're going to get reports back. There will be problems. They will fix it. And this will just be ongoing process, especially in the beginning. So waiting just means that you don't have to go through those steps. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't have to rush. It's not something to sleep out in front of the Microsoft Store over, because there's no point anyway, and most of them are gone, which is a shame. So yes, it's not going to show up right away. That's okay. Don't stress over it. It's not really a bad thing, because Windows 10 will roll on. Okay, Windows 10 is guaranteed support until October 14th, 2025. So if your machine is not compatible with Windows 11, if you choose to not want to upgrade, you're good for many years to come. Now, that's not forever, right? I mean, 2025, when you read it, you're like, oh, that's so far, we're in 2021, so it's not forever. But it is a long time, right? The odds are, if you're working on a machine that either doesn't run Windows 11 comfortably, or you choose not to, by 2025, you're probably going to need a new machine anyway. So you'll just get the upgrade at that point when you buy a new machine. So it'll be a wash, but it's not as far away as we think. But it is far enough away that you don't have to feel like you have to rush. You don't have to feel like you're being forced into it. Everything will keep working on your system. Just like, there's people out there that are still using Windows 7 systems, and the support on that has long sunsetted. So all that means is that you're, when something has sunset, like the people using Windows 7 are not getting regular upgrades. They do send out severe security patches because we're trying to keep the internet as relatively safe as we can. But, that said, they're not getting new features or anything like that. And that's what eventually will happen with Windows 10 down the road. But you're going to keep getting upgrades. You're going to keep getting new stuff up until 2025. So you're good for a while. Let's see. What else? Okay. So then the other thing is that most of us are probably not going to see the upgrade opportunity come, to our system. Obviously not around October 5th. It'll probably be mid 2022 before we start to see it on a regular basis. And it may be well into the summer of 2022 before that starts to happen. So this is not, people tend to, because it'll start to show up in the news and you'll start to hear a lot about it, and that tends to get people a little anxious. It's okay. There really is no big push. There's no immediacy to it. But it is time for you to start to think about what your game plan is going to be, right? So you have to start to think about whether or not you want to get a new computer, or if you're shopping for a new computer now, maybe you want to think about holding off, right? Because if you hold off a little bit longer, well, first of all, right now with everything that's going on, it's a little hard to get a good computer right now, because the pipelines are dry as far as new parts and chips and all that kind of stuff. So things are a little pricey right now anyway. So unless you have a dire need, like your computer is dead, you may want to factor this into your decision-making process on when you're going to buy a new one. Because the longer you can wait right now, the better the odds are that that new computer you buy, if it truly is a new one, it might have Windows 11 already on it. So just something else to think about, one more piece of the puzzle. Obviously, everybody's situation is a little bit different. You're going to have to think about it, figure out what's best for you. But it is just one more thing, because right now, if you buy a new computer, the odds are pretty good it's going to have Windows 10 on it. That still does not guarantee that it will be compatible with Windows 11, although the odds are pretty good. But just something to think about, ruminate on. It's I'm going to hold off. Personally, I'm going to hold off, because I was thinking about maybe replacing my streaming desktop and using this as because my laptop is dying. So I was thinking, well, instead of buying another laptop, because the reason I bought it no longer is an issue, maybe I would take this and put this out, where I do my daily work, and bring a new one in here. But whatever I use for streaming needs to be pretty high end. So I just assume at this point to wait, A, to save up some money, B, to hopefully the prices will start to come back down again as, parts become available. And then I'll get Windows 11 just by default, which will be a nice little bonus. Okay, so I covered up all of that, I think. Let me see. Yes, okay. So that's where we're at with the basics. So we'll come back to this in a minute. But I did just want to mention to you, too, that there is another thing to consider that not everybody talks about right away. And it is something else to think about in advance, and that is you want to make sure that the software that you depend on the most is going to be compatible with Windows 11, because a lot of times there's a lag between when the new operating system comes out and when all the software works on it. So, most of the big companies are working very closely with Microsoft. They've already got it in-house. They're already working on it. But that doesn't even mean or guarantee that it's going to be ready October 5th, right? It may not. So you're going to want to make sure that you are doing that check also. It doesn't make everybody's checklist of, hey, when you're going to look for a new system, check these things out. But you really want to make sure, okay, you're my friends here, so I want to make sure you're covered. You want to make sure that at least your most important software, right, whether that's the daily software that you use or it's just software that you really, really rely on, even if you only run it, once a month or so, you're going to want to make sure that it's going to be compatible. And again, that's another reason to not rush into it, because the more lag time, again, the better for the software as well, right? Windows 11 will go through some different variations and versions over the next couple of months as they get everything nailed down, and those will also then impact the software that runs on stuff. So, like, for example, I'm going to check in with the folks that do vMix, which is my streaming software, how I do the show. It's how I get, the little cool things to show up like that. I'm going to want to be sure that they're good with Windows 11 before I even think about getting Windows 11, because I depend on it for the show and I need it to work as wonderfully as it always does. So just add that to your checklist of things. It's like, okay, money, can I get what I want? Am I ready for it? Is it going to be okay? And then make sure that your software is going to run on it. The other thing that tends to be a problem are sometimes the bigger software and sometimes the really big business software doesn't always work well on it. So right away, it will eventually, but sometimes there's a lag on that just because those big ships are harder to turn, right? So if we're going to go into metaphor territory here, sometimes the smaller companies have an easier time of it because they're small, they're agile, they're quick, not agile the approach, but agile in the reality. Well, we'll say flexible instead. How about that? So that is definitely something, that sometimes that's a better advantage for them. Sometimes it's harder for the bigger companies because there are so many layers of management, and they're global, and there's legals, and so it just makes it harder for them to be quickly responsive to stuff. They've known this is coming, so hopefully that will work to everybody's advantage. But having worked in big and small companies, I've seen both sides of it, and so there's no guarantee that one or the other is going to be faster. So just it's a good time to take mental note, or even I'm a big fan of writing it down. Write down, what it is that you're relying on a regular basis, and then maybe go and hit their website or go and fire off an email to their support team and say, hey, I'm just curious, where are you on the Windows 11 thing? Should we hold off? Are you going to be ready? That kind of stuff. And most of them will give you a PR response, but usually the PR response you can kind of pull the truth out of. So make sure that you take a look at that as well. Okay, now that we've talked about the basics here, let's get into a little bit of what to expect. So, there's always these big announcements, and the big announcement for this was a few months ago, and the big thing, everybody went, ooh, that because it's going to run Android apps on your Windows PC. However, and I will look at you, I got yes, because I have to do which is not running right now, right, because of this setup. This is a new setup, in case you haven't told, but where is it? There. The captioning that I usually run, and I apologize that it's not running. I have to figure out how to put this in this new environment because I think I like this. That's actually coming. See, I can never find the right pointing. That actually is coming from an Android phone. But in order to get it to work, so it's Google Transcribe running on an older Android phone that I bring into my computer, and then vMix pulls it from the computer screen and displays it to you folks. I'm going to take it down because it doesn't, I'll probably put it down here. It's a lot of steps. It works. It works actually amazingly well. But it is one of those things. So when I heard this, I was like, yes, because that would streamline this whole process so much. And then there was the but, which I think I have here, right? Oh, no. Okay, well, so let's go back. Oops. Sorry. New setup. So, yes. So, in theory, it's, going to run Android apps. Now, first of all, it's not going to do that day one. Sorry. For whatever reason, it's not going to make it. They're not even putting a date on it right now. So that's not a good sign, right? If it's it'll be a couple of weeks later, you'll have it by Christmas, they would be saying that. They're not saying that. Matter of fact, they're specifically saying they don't have a date for it. So this is something that they're working on, and it is something that will eventually happen. And there are third-party tools that you can do it with, but frankly, they're just as much of a jury-rigged deal as what I'm doing here, so I don't bother. When it does become available, though, and this is the thing that really bummed me out, it's not going to be that it's running Android apps magically, right? It's going to run Android apps from Amazon's App Store. Okay, the list of things just went to this. And it means that if you have an app that you wanted to use that you've already bought through the Google Play Store, you would have to repurchase it. If it's not free, you would have to repurchase it through the Amazon store. This is not helpful. Not at all. And the Amazon App Store tends to not get the updates as quickly. So this for me kind of spiraled pretty quickly, because I'm like, okay, here's all the reasons I don't use the Amazon App Store, and now I'm going to be more restricted. And to be honest, and I haven't had a chance to go check since I got this bad news, but I would not be surprised if Google Transcribe is not in the Android App Store. So if this is something that appeals to you, you're going to want to take a look at whether or not it's an option, and the way to tell is whether or not it's going to be in the Android, in the Amazon App Store. I was disappointed. I won't kid you. I am very disappointed about this, but we'll see what happens. It's just funny because all the announcements about this are and the Amazon App Store has, 500,000 apps. It's like a drop in the bucket to what's available in the Google one. But okay, whatever. It's not that they're not trustworthy or it's just that that's not most Android people. That's not their first stop, right? The people who are using the Android App Store are the people who are buying the Amazon tablets, right? That's pretty much why the Amazon App Store exists. So for what it's worth, it's not terrible, but it's not great. So take that for what it is. And I know for a lot of people it doesn't matter, but for those of us who are, very much into Windows and Android, it would have been a nice convenience, but okay. All right, the next thing to expect from Windows 11 is a new UI, which is typical, right? Anytime they release a new version of the operating system, we get a new look and feel. And people get very about, whether it's pretty or not. And as a UI designer and a user experience person, I don't care. I mean, yes, I don't want it to be hideous, but pretty is not the bar. Okay, the bar is it usable? Does it do what I want? Does it let me do the customizations? And this is where the information again is not so great. So the big thing, from the announcement was the fact that they're going to move the start button. So right now, the start button is in the lower left corner. They're going to move it to the middle. There are some ergonomic reasons to do that, right? Because putting it in the middle, your cursor is always equidistant from it, right? Right now, if your cursor is up, in the upper right, you've got to go all the way over to the lower left. So from that standpoint, I can understand doing that. Doing it just because they feel trendy, that's not so much. But okay, I mean, that's not the end of the world, and it does, it saves a little bit of time, and people scoff at that, but, fractions of a second add up over the course of a day. And do I have it? Yeah, so, okay, I'm back to wearing my brace. I didn't do it for the show, but it's going back on because the carpal tunnel is no joke. So the little things like that do actually pay off. So that might actually be okay. They will adjust the colors. They will adjust the fonts, all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be radically different from what you're used to seeing. It's not going to be something that makes you feel disoriented in any way, but you will notice a difference. You will be able to tell the difference between a Windows 10 and a Windows 11 system, especially when they're side by side. So, you will see that. Some of the other things that are going to be different in the new UI, the live tiles, which you probably didn't even know were a thing. But if you go down to the start, especially when you first got your system, when you went down to the start, on the left side were all your applications, and on the right side were all these squares. Some of them were moving, some of them were flashing information at you, and all that. That was live squares, right? That was supposed to be really helpful, and everybody hated it. Okay, let me back that up. Not everybody hates everything, okay? The majority of people hated it and turned them off as soon as they found out that they could, right? Because it was like the weather, it was sports scores, and all that kind of stuff. And frankly, when I'm using my Windows machine, I'm not looking for that kind of nonsense in my face. I don't need that extra friction. I just need to go in and pick my app and move on with my day. So that's going away. However, it's not really going away. Now it's going to become something called widgets. And widgets are going to come in from the side as a panel when you tap on them, and it's going to have some of the same options as far as content go that you had in Live Tiles. I'm just glad Live Tiles is going away because it was annoying. Not that you couldn't turn it off, but it was a pain in the neck to have to do it. It's the kind of thing that I wish that they had not made it a opt-out kind of thing. So opt-out means that they give it to you and then you have to say no. All that stuff should always be opt-in. It should always be, we have this available if you want it, and then you can go and turn it on if you want it. Because that's the nice and the polite way to do it, not to shove it in our faces. Okay, moving on. I can't help it. It's what I do for a living, so this always gets to me a little bit. Okay, so the other the other thing, and I'm sorry, well, actually there's two that are going to get this. We'll start with this one. Okay, so Cortana is going away. Not really, but Cortana is not going to be in your face anymore. Cortana is not going to be the default turned on anymore. Let me turn that off. So that makes me happy because Cortana has always been a pain in my neck, and I hated when it kept popping up saying, well, Cortana can do this for you. I don't care. I didn't ask for that. So for me, that's good news. I'm happy to see Cortana go, it's still going to be around. If you're one of the people who loves it, hey, that's great. Go for it. It will still be available for you. It's just that the rest of us won't have to deal with it by default. The opt-in, opt-out thing, right? Another thing, which I think actually could be really helpful, is that they're going to let us create separate virtual desktops. Now, what does that mean? And this is not something everybody knows about, but you should go check it out. So right now in Windows, you can set up virtual desktops. So you can set up a virtual desktop that has, like your word processor and your email tool, right? And then you can set up another one that has maybe like your news, right? And your stock ticker and that kind of stuff. And instead of having to keep opening these apps and closing them when you want to go in and out of them, you can just switch virtual desktops. Essentially what it's doing is it's just kind of changing the view without you having to do multiple clicks. So you could set up, I think it's 4, it might be 6. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now. I always set up 4, so that's why I know 4 works. But you can do it so that you can just quickly tab through them instead of having to reopen things and close them again, because they're taking up space and all that. So that's really handy, especially when you're trying to multitask, which is basically how I live. So basically what I do is I have my main view, right? And then I have one that has my calendar, my email, that kind of thing on it. Maybe a chat if we're doing a lot of chat that day. Then I have one for client A and one for client B. So that's why I have 4. Because while I'm doing my main work on my main screen, if I get a message from one of the clients, I can quickly change to theirs and literally like seconds, it's like magic, and start talking to them about their thing and dealing with it and whatever. Now I realize that doesn't apply to everybody. That's just an example of how I use it. The change is going to be, we can still do these things, but now you can actually do them separate, right? So you can group them separately. So right now, like, all I can do is just set it up, but I can't, like, do one for personal and, like, I can't do one set of 4 for personal and one set of 4 for work. Now I would be able to do that because I can create multiple sets of virtual and kind of theme them according to what it is I need to do while I'm in that particular view set. So I realize not something for everybody, but especially with people working from home and kids doing remote learning and all that kind of stuff, and adults doing remote learning, they always leave that out. This could be really handy because it makes it much easier to switch those gears. Your brain switches those gears easier than your computer does. So it will make it a little bit easier, a lot more efficient once you get used to doing it. And it is the kind of thing that when you first start using it, like anything else, it feels a little weird. But once you start to get in the rhythm with it, you're like, whoa, how have I not done this for years? So that was my thing like a few years ago, because I kept hearing people using them and I'm like, why? I just open and close the apps. And then I started trying it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much better. Thank you. So there is that. John is on Facebook mocking me, but John, it's true. And I know it would work for you too, because you've got a lot of irons in the fire. So this could definitely work for you too. Mock away. It's fine. I'm just personally very, very happy about this one. All right. So let me see. Is that everything about the new UI? We talked about the widgets. We talked about the virtual desktops. We talked about Cortana. Okay. There's one more. There's one more. let me bring this back up so we can do the whole thing here. Okay, so another part of the new UI thing, and yes, we need this, is that Windows Explorer is finally appreciated. Oh, come on, give me that confetti for this one. As a UI person, oh my goodness, Windows Explorer is the bane of my existence. And it doesn't mean I'm still not going to have to deal with it, because I am. Because like I said, there's still going to be people on Windows 10, Windows 7. But it's the right move in the right direction. Goodbye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I am glad to see it go. Now, like everything else, they've been pushing this on us for a while, right? They want everybody to use Edge, and they're going to keep wanting us to use Edge, and they're going to keep pushing us to use Edge. And guess what? They're going to make it harder to change your default browser from Edge to anything else. Don't worry. Once we get to that point, you can bet I will be here and show you how to do it. I don't like that they're doing that part of it, but right now, if that's the price we're paying for getting rid of Internet Explorer, okay, I will adapt. And like I said, trust me, you can come back here and I will have the steps that you need to take in order to switch it out. It's just it sounds like it's going to be a couple of extra steps to do it. So, but bye. Good to know you. Glad to see you're gone, Internet Explorer. Yeah. Okay, so yes, not that I have feelings about this, but I have feelings about this. Alrighty, so let's keep going here. I can hear John laughing. All right, enough about the UI. It's my world, what can I say? Okay, so I jumped ahead of myself. So, okay, live tiles are going away, which I talked about, and the widgets are taking their place. See, I should have stuck to the script. I jump around, I can't help it. That's why these don't always work, but okay. So this is another thing that they're giving us. For most people, I don't think this is going to be as big a deal as they like, but this is definitely going after the corporate market. And they will, of course, push it on the personal computers, because those of us who are working from home full-time now are, in very many cases, using our personal computers if they haven't given you a system to take home. So it's going to be built in. Yeah, okay, you can do screen sharing, you can do chat and all that kind of stuff. I don't see people getting their families to switch over to Teams. I just don't. But you never know. Maybe it'll happen for some families, but mostly this is going to be, a work productivity kind of thing. Of course, we're using it at my day gig. I don't love it, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen either. It's just it's Microsoft. It's a little bloated. It's not really well organized. It does a terrible job of letting me know that somebody has sent me a message. But that's okay because that just means I don't have to respond right away. Because everybody's having that problem. It's like, oh, look, hey, somebody sent me a message 20 minutes ago. Thanks for letting me know. But anyway, it will be there. It will be built in. I have a sneaking suspicion it will be a opt-out, not an opt-in, which I've already discussed I don't like. But, it'll be there. So for the people who are using it, there you go. Let's see, I did skip ahead. Okay, so we talked about the virtual desktops. This I do think is handy. I do love virtual desktops in and of themselves, so being able to group them for purposes, I think that'll be very helpful for those of us who use it. Oh, geez, I really skipped ahead of myself. See? I really need to learn to stick to my script. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna do this again. I'm really excited about this. Can you tell? I'm really, really excited about this. Okay. Oh, we're almost finished. Okay, so this is another one. This cracked me up because did you know that you had Wallet on your system? I'll bet you didn't. So you didn't know it was there. It's going to be gone. You won't miss it. For those of you who might be curious, Wallet, just think Apple Pay, Google Pay, that kind of thing. That's what it was. They do have a Microsoft Pay. The information is a little fuzzy about whether or not with Wallet going, if Microsoft Pay is also going to go. Some people call Pay a rebranding of Wallet, but it's not exactly the same thing, although it is very much the same. But regardless, at least, this will be gone. Hopefully they won't replace it with some other bloatware, but yeah. So if you are, I'm sure there are people out there who are using Wallet, you do need to at least move to Microsoft Pay or one of the other ones that people actually recognize. Okay, so let's come back to me here. The other thing that is going to be taken away is something else that not everybody knows about. It comes in handy once in a while, but there is this concept right now in Windows of timeline, where you can actually go back to something that you were working on or an app you were working on yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever. It's one of those kind of like power user things, and even power users don't use it on a regular basis. Every so often it is handy if you can't remember when you did something. You can kind of open up timeline and kind of get a feel for, oh right, that was 4 days ago. Okay. Sometimes that just helps orient me. But it's going to go away. Evidently, there is a flavor of it that will live on in Microsoft Edge because they're trying to get us to use Edge. They're going to start throwing everything in Edge. I don't like Edge any more than I don't like Edge any more than I like Internet Explorer. I was trying to say, no, it's just new. So I don't use Edge. So if that would be the price to pay for using Timeline, I don't use Timeline enough for it to matter. So I'm going to probably just move on with my life. But there you go. Alrighty. So that's what I have for you. That is where things are as of now. Things are subject to change. They're not going to change wildly. There's always the chance that the release date could get pushed out a little bit, especially with everything that's going on, but it'll be somewhere at the end, mid to end October. Most of us won't even get the opportunity to install it on our systems right away, so, that's not a really big deal, but like I said, I just want to kind of prepare everybody because you are going to start to hear a lot about this. And then sometime next year, probably by mid next year, they will start pushing it out to people's systems that they think will be able to run it, but you do have the option to say no. So it will be up to you. Do a little research, like I said, think about it, and then factor it in when you are going to buy a new system, because this is where we're going to get into this window of people buy a new system, bring it home, start to use it, and then find out their apps don't work in it. So decide for yourself what you want, what's important to you, and then make a list of the apps that you can't live without and start checking those to see what's compatible and what's not. Eventually, there will be a list on Microsoft's site that's not there yet. When it does come out, I'll include that in a future show. But yeah, for right now, you're better off identifying your main applications and then reaching out to those folks and saying, "Hey, what's the plan here? What am I looking for? What am I not looking for? Should I go for it? Should I not?" And you'll get some level of useful information back from them. But if it's something that's really important to you, find the user group or find the Twitter feed, for it, or, somewhere out there's a group of people talking, because somewhere out there's a group of people talking about everything. So go and find the group of people who are talking about it, who are watching it closely for those apps that you can't live without, and just keep your ear to the ground and you'll know pretty quickly, where you stand as far as that goes. All right. Alrighty, John, what do you think? You're going to go for it right away? Or you're going to hold off? I wonder if it's going to work with your 3D printer and your game building software. We'll have to talk about that at another time. But yeah, I'm wondering, that's the kind of stuff, like, as you start to think about the implications, I was like, oh, there's that, and there's this. I've started, so, if you guys have been around at all, you know my love of these, right, the Remarkable tablet. So I've started making a list of the apps that I'm going to want to check. Of course, vMix being right there at the top. But just so I every time I think of something, I'm like, oh yeah, I can't live without this. I add it to the list, because then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to start reaching out to my different application developers and say, hey, what's the deal? All right, everybody, that's what I have for you. Hopefully this will all work out well. Okay, yeah, John is in my camp. Hold off and wait to see how the gaming stuff and all, right, gaming just in general, right, the gaming industry, like, okay, Fortnite, are they ready for this? Because desktop gaming has become very, very popular. It's the only gaming I do anymore. So yeah, that's a whole nother category of when will it work? What was that one that just came out that had all the trouble? I can't remember the name of it now. Wasn't Red Dead. Anyway, that'll be a whole nother level of headaches for the game designers, because it will probably be just different enough to give them a headache. Oh well. That's the price we pay for loving our technology. Okay, everybody, I am here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You are always welcome to come and join. If you have any questions, if you want more information about anything, if you have an idea for a show, go to yourtechcoach.net and let me know. Just if you need a fast answer, make sure you give me a way to get back in touch with you. Also, I have resurrected this, so if we're going into the holiday season, right? And as business owners, we know the importance of ramping up our social media, ramping up social posts, your blog posts, your emails to your mailing list. If you need help with ideas, I have a free ebook, 130 content ideas. So feel free. It's just yourtechcoach.net/content ideas, no spaces. Go for it. I made it for me, but I'm sharing it with you in case you need it, because we all have those days where, like, I need to post something. I don't know what to post. I randomly pick something. I'm like, okay, there's the topic for the day, and that's what we run with. So it's there for you. If you need it, if you want it, go for it. No cost, no pain. It's as straightforward and easy as I could make it. All right, everybody, have a good one. I will see you next week. I hope you have a good weekend. Bye.